Franchise Envy, my series where I get to talk to happy, successful franchise owners. Today's a great one, as usual.
Up next.
Well, Matthew, we covered the fun stuff, but let's get to the more fun stuff.
That's correct. Yep, I set up a booth at the end of the driveway and tried selling some of my dad's tools.
The number one request, Lance, can you find me something that's needed? I want something that's recession-proof and needed, and clearly protecting your family is absolutely needed. Today, I have Matthew Sarkela on the podcast. Matthew, you told me that every 36 minutes there is a dryer fire. Tell us about Dryer Vent Wizard and how you're solving that problem.
Dryer Vent Wizard is the expert in this service space. We provide in-home dryer vent cleaning, repair, and installation. It's true. Every 36 minutes there's a dryer fire somewhere in the country. Generally, it's caused by a lack of maintenance. Homeowners are just unconsciously unaware that their dryer vent is clogged up with lint, that their dryer may need servicing internally. There may be lint buildup inside, which leads to restricted airflow, the possibility of a fire, and wasted energy. Every time you run your dryer, it takes about 30 to 40 cents in electricity. If you have to run it 3 or 4 cycles, you can have 2 to 3 times the energy usage just by having a dirty dryer or dryer vent.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, and obviously when people come to me and they're looking at franchises, the number one request, Lance, can you find me something that's needed? I want something that's recession-proof and needed, and clearly protecting your family is absolutely needed. I want to thank you for your service as a U.S. Marine, Matthew.
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. U.S. Marine Corps rifle instructor turned business owner. So what I want the audience to understand about your journey is, yes, you were a Marine, and 14% of franchise owners, last I checked, are actually veterans. So it's amazing. It seems like military folks love following a plan, and that's what franchising is all about. You're an outrageously successful owner from Mr. Appliance, part of the Neighborly family. You had the number one location in sales. That's pretty incredible. And then you sold and you got into Dryer Vent Wizard. So let's talk about, how did you get into, give us the highlights of how you got into Mr. Appliance in the first place.
Sure. So back in 2005, I went out on my own and I started a small company. It was literally just me and my own van. I didn't even have air conditioning in the vehicle, and it was really hot here in the South in the summer. But I started on a shoestring budget of a few $1,000s. In 2005, it was called AM/PM service, AM/PM appliance repair. And I would go house to house fixing appliances. In very short order, in just a couple of years, we were turning a very nice little profit. And I was recruited actually by Mr. Appliance at the time. One of their sales reps was very tenacious. He would call me every 2 weeks on the same time, on the same day, and just talk to me. And he would drop little tidbits of information like, well, have you thought about systemizing your marketing? Have you thought about systematizing your delivery system? Have you thought about having a phone script? He was dropping these little tidbits of business knowledge on me the whole time. And they were helping make improvements in my business. It built up to me trusting Sam and trusting Mr. Appliance as far as understanding what a franchise system has to offer.
Pretty amazing. I love that story. I didn't know about that story. So at some point you said you're going to convert your business. Did they give you a deal to join their system? Because you were already in the same business.
So they first invited me over to their headquarters in Waco to do a meet and greet, and we met the team at Mr. Appliance and really believed in the vision and the mission of the company, believed in their ethics and their values, were definitely on par with what I believed in. They also had the Vet for Fran program, which I believe still exists, where they give you a discount off the franchise. So I used that and then applied and was granted the franchise in 2007.
Awesome. And your exit, so this was $1 million business that you built in Mr. Appliance?
About $1.5 million, right.
Wonderful. So I love the story that you're in the Neighborly family of brands. You sell Mr. Appliance, and then with all of the Neighborly brands, why'd you pick Dryer Vent Wizard?
So, and that kind of speaks to what I thought of the neighborly brands, right? Because I was already out, so I could have easily gone a different direction. But this was during COVID. My wife and I found ourselves a little bit bored, and we were kind of stuck at home. And we decided that maybe we wanted to get back into business. So we kind of set some ground rules as far as what our next business needed to be. And some of those rules were it needed to be decentralized, meaning it didn't have a central office. It was something very specific, kind of a niche business where you just did one thing and did it really well. That it could be something that was easily scalable. And we came across Dryer Wizard, and we were excited because it was another neighborly brand. And so we decided to explore that further. During that exploration process, we discovered the gentleman in Raleigh, Cary, Durham area was retiring. We contacted him, did a ride along with him, got to meet him and his wife, and we decided to purchase his business so he could retire.
And that was 3 territories, correct?
It was 1 territory at the time, but we've since grown it into 3 territories.
Oh, wonderful. That's fantastic. So you bought 1 territory and expanded.
Expanded it into 3.
Expanded to 3, and you have how many vans right now?
We have 5 vans on the road right now.
Now, you told me everybody wants to understand the numbers here, and I know as part of any great validation process, a prospective franchisee is going to have an opportunity to talk to great franchisees like you and the brand. And you had mentioned to me that, if somebody is doing a good job, they're going to, 1 van should be able to get up to about, what, 300,000 or so, you said, in revenue?
I would say about 300,000 in revenue for 1 very successful van. Yes, sir.
So you're on your way to at least getting to where you were with Mr. Appliance to about $1.5 million then.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yep. And we did that in, I think we just started year number 5.
And are you working super hard in this business? You look pretty relaxed, if you don't mind me saying
No,
so.
no. My wife and I have a really nice lifestyle with Dryer Wizard. I don't work in the business at all. We basically work from home, and we handle pretty much the finances, bookkeeping, some of the marketing. We show up for team meetings and hiring and onboarding. Other than that, though, we don't really we really don't leave the house for the business for any reason.
You have that dream life, but you've earned it and you've worked up to that for sure. One thing
It's taken many years to get here, yes, sir. Yeah.
Absolutely, but you've learned. You have a great background now with military
Right.
and being a prior business owner. It does take time. When it comes to net income or profitability, I think we said maybe about 20% when you're running things right. Shouldn't be a problem.
Correct. Yeah, if you're making the right decisions and you have the right bookkeeping, and if you're doing everything by the system, you can turn to 20% profit.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, we covered the fun stuff, but let's get to the more fun stuff. The reality as people listen to this is, great. Well, I'm not a military guy. I didn't own a prior business. I haven't learned anything yet. I'm stuck at a job I hate. How do I become like Matthew? So let's start off with, what are typically the struggles for brand new franchisees if they've never had a business? What do you see? Maybe what was your biggest struggle when you got into Mr. Appliance and you were new?
Sure. I think the biggest struggle wasn't necessarily right away. We were able to roll in the business. We were able to get things going and get some sales, get some jobs on the books. I think the struggles came in what I call the messy middle. And that's kind of like when you first start to grow. You don't know what you don't know. You may not even be aware that you need help in areas like hiring, like marketing, HR, personal management, things like that. And you start to hire people, you start to grow, and you have fires everywhere. And you spend all your time trying to put out fires, and things get real messy during that initial growth phase. And you find that you don't have enough time or energy to do all of the things. 1 minute you're doing bookkeeping, the next minute you're doing bill outs, the next minute you're training new employees, the next minute you're hiring, the next minute you got to fire somebody, you start all over again, and it really gets messy. And the only way through that is through. It's the only way out is through. And you really have to just put in the extra time and effort during that messy middle. But more importantly, you got to learn the things you don't know. You got to learn what a good employee looks like. You've got to learn how to lead, how to manage, and how to manage your time. Also, you really got to learn how to delegate tasks to people and let go and let them do it.
I'm making notes for later because we're going to talk about this right now, though. What does a good employee look like?
Wow. That's ever changing. So currently, they have to have a reason why. Like when I'm interviewing somebody or talking to somebody, I'm trying to find out what their why is. Why do they want a job? Why do they want to work? And it needs to be aligned with our why, but it also needs to be really personal to them to give them the motivation to show up to work. And it does take some time. You have to, I think it was Carnegie that said you have to dig through a lot of dirt to find a diamond. And so sometimes you have to go through many employees before you find one that's going to stick. So it does take some time and effort and determination to get through that dirt until you get to the diamond.
I love that. What is the most rewarding thing now at this stage in your life? Is it the fact that you and your wife have the lifestyle that you wanted, and the fact that you don't have those stresses? When you got past the messy middle, what's the next layer?
So then after the messy middle starts to become mastery, like you've mastered your bookkeeping, you've mastered your marketing, you've got your team in place, you've got the people in the right seats in the bus. Then it starts to become more fun now because you can look at it from more like a conductor of an orchestra, and you can say, well, if I put a little effort into marketing here, if I put a little effort into training there, if I put a little effort into sales here, we can increase the margins, and we can increase the total sales, which equals more profit. The other thing that starts to happen is once you get through that messy middle is now you can look for a general manager. And ultimately that general manager is that freedom to get your life and time back from the day-to-day responsibilities.
What was the magic for you finding your general manager?
So the first time I found a general manager, it was kind of unexpected. Somebody within the company, a wonderful lady, rose to the occasion. She started answering phones. She worked her way up to office manager. And when it came time for me to sell the business, I actually approached her and said, I'm thinking about selling. And she goes, okay, I can see that. She goes, I would like to stay on and become the general manager. So we did teach her some general management skills, and we expanded her responsibilities. And to her credit, she still is the general manager of that Mr. Appliance today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, I think I have a name after the messy middle is the fortunate future.
Fortunate future. Okay. Yeah.
We'll add that to the list. So, do you think people are born entrepreneurs? Because at a young age, you did some crazy things. And maybe we can call out these things. Like at 10 years old, you sold your dad's tools?
That's correct. Yep, I set up a booth at the end of the driveway and tried selling some of my dad's tools.
What were you looking to buy?
I was hoping to buy a new bicycle. I really wanted a mountain bike at the time. This was somewhere in the 80s, and mountain bikes were all the cool thing. And I think I ended up opening up a mountain bike shop in my garage. I had no idea what I was doing.
So this story reminds me, though, there are a lot of people I work with that are first-time business owners, and I've had people say to me, I'm not entrepreneurial at all. I know I need to have my own business, but I didn't have any family members that were entrepreneurial. Are people naturally born entrepreneurs, or are these skills that you think they can develop?
I think it's a little bit of both. I do think there are people that are just naturally born entrepreneurs. They don't necessarily want to follow the path. They're kind of contrarians. They always look at things and go, geez, I could do that better. I could do that on my own. I don't need a company to do that. And then, or it's just this drive like, hey, I really want to go from here to there. How do I do that? And they see business as the tool to get them to that point. So I think people are born that way. I think other people can learn the skills along the way. Either way, though, there is a lot of skills you have to learn, whether you're born it or come through some other method.
I love it. Well, you've been an awesome guest, my friend. Matthew, thank you for being here. Dryer Vent Wizard. He's got 3 territories. He's taken over the world.
If you're ready to talk about franchise opportunities, hit the link below to schedule a call. My services are free, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.